Hey guys, what's going on? It's Scott from Fly Rides. I am back out today with another quick review for you guys. I have been trying out the Haibike SDURO Fullseven LT 7.0 for the last couple weeks, and I just wanted to give you a quick rundown of my experience on it, what I thought. We'll do a spec breakdown as well. We'll take a look at some footage of me riding it and just my overall experience on the bike, let you know who it's good for. Let's check it out. So Haibike's Fullseven LT line was new in 2018. It was kind of a nice middle ground between people who didn't want the aggressiveness of the all-mountain line, which got a lot more aggressive that year in terms of the geometry, and people who needed something a little bit more than just like the typical cross-country Fullseven line. So it offers you extra suspension without having to go into a super aggressive sort of bike build. On this bike, you are getting full suspension. It's a Suntour Aeon 35mm stanchions on that in the front, which operates pretty well. I think this Suntour gets a little bit of like a bad rep as, you know, as like more of like a lower level brand, but this level of fork is actually pretty solid. So I think it's a good choice for Haibike because it keeps the price down, but still performs really well. You also got the RockShox Monarch in the back that also has 150mm of travel on there. RockShox makes a great product, and this one works out really well. They both have full lockout on there, so if you're using it to commute or if when you climb you don't need the suspension, you can lock that out. The drivetrain on here is the SRAM NX 11-speed. A lot of people on the entry-level bikes think they want to upgrade, certain components long-term, which I think any bike, it's a good idea to not just get what you're given stock. But the SRAM NX actually performs really well. It is SRAM's entry-level drivetrain, but of all the entry-level drivetrains, it's far superior, I would say, than any of the other companies. SRAM does a really good job with all their drivetrains. So that would be like probably the last thing I would think about upgrading if I were to buy this bike. But again, that's any bike if you're, don't necessarily just take what you're given stock. But this is the one thing that I would probably keep on there is that SRAM NX drivetrain. It's 11 to 42 teeth on the rear cassette, so that gets you, a nice gear ratio. And then of course the Bosch, it's paired with the Bosch system, so the Bosch Performance CX. You're getting 75 Newton meters of torque out of that, and it's a 500 watt-hour battery as well. So that all works together to give you a really solid drivetrain on this bike. Lately, of course, plus-size tires have become basically a complete necessity for most e-bike riders. Most people really don't want anything smaller than 2.6s on there. In my experience, that's what I'm finding more and more. So they do set you up with knobby neck 2.8s. The tires themselves are tubeless ready, so they could be used for tubeless, but the rims are not going to be tubeless ready. So you could do something like adding sealant to the tire or the tubes or something like that, but just so you know, this is not going to be a tubeless ready to go bike. You would definitely need to either upgrade your rims or it would take some heavy adjustments on the rim to make it tubeless, and might not even be possible at all depending on your mechanic. So just a heads up on that. Still, knobby neck tires though are nice. They got some solid grip on there, and they perform pretty well. It's the snakeskin model. You do have Tektro brakes on this, so they are hydraulic disc brakes, and it's on 203mm rotors in the front and 180 in the rear. So again, that's more of an advanced setup. Tektro is going to be definitely an entry-level brake. But you're on rotors that are going to be more like a pro setup, which is really nice because it's going to help dissipate the energy a little bit more, make the brake last a little bit longer. Those are the components. That's the general specs. So that's just a quick breakdown of those. How this bike rides, I really enjoyed it. A lot of times on the Bosch Into bikes, I had a hard time, I'd previously have had a hard time climbing on them a little bit more, but I think because of the Fullseven geometry setup and the way that, basically that it's just not quite as aggressively built, you can climb a lot easier. So it's really good for like flowy single track, something that's going to have some intense uphills, and then just you're kind of like riding along a ridge line or something like that. Really solid for fire roads as well, and then it's good for commuting to the trail too. So if you live close to a trail and don't want to put it on the back of your car, this style of geometry is going to be really nice for that. Generally speaking, on my rides, I was getting anywhere from, I would say, 30 I've got one ride up to like 55 miles. I'm a lighter person though, so I'm about 5'6", weigh about 140 to 145 depending on the day. So I get a little bit of a benefit there. The day that I got 30, I was definitely just in turbo climbing all day. That was like a 4,000 foot climb day, and then we just went down from there. It is really nice to have the dropper seat post if you do get into something a little more hairy. It's Haibike's XLC dropper, so it's not a ton of travel on there, but it gives you just enough play a little bit more to get down some more aggressive sections. So while it's not a bike that's built for like, you know, heavy enduro usage or anything like that, you get a little bit extra versatility in where you can use this bike and how you can use this bike because, again, of the suspension setup, the extra suspension, and then things like that dropper seat post as well. So I would recommend this bike to riders who are maybe just getting into the sport of mountain biking or electric mountain biking in general. I would also recommend it to people who want like a really solid frame and maybe are interested in getting component upgrades. So if that's something you're interested in and you want to save money initially and then just, puts like, I don't know, like a Lyric fork on there or like a Fox Kashima coated fork on there, that's something you could do on this bike as well. So it's good for people who are like entry level, beginning riders, maybe up to intermediate. I consider myself more of like in the intermediate range, and I still really enjoyed the ride on it. Anybody who's doing more aggressive downhill is going to want something that's, again, built a little bit more aggressively and probably with some higher end components. But I would say for 80 to 85% of riders who are just getting into the sport or, maybe have aspirations to get better out on the trails and stuff like that, it's going to be pretty solid. So most of the market is going to do really well on this bike. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, so we'll have more bike reviews, more in-depth stuff like this. Haibike did partner with us on this video to put me on this bike so that I could review it for them, just to give you guys full disclosure. But overall, I did really enjoy the ride, and those are the riders I think it's going to be good for. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you have any questions about this bike in particular or any other bike out there, and we'll see you guys next time.